Welcome back, everybody. This is the Horn Takes podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. Man, after doing 4 shows a week during football season, this one show a week thing just seems like it's a year in between every show. I hope you guys feel the same way. I do. Miss you guys. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Friday, and there's not a lot to talk about, but we found a few things to talk about. Texas sports related, major college football related. This is like the worst time of the year for me because I'm just not a big basketball dude. I mean, I'll watch it. I'll watch Texas basketball. I will, loosely is not the word, but I don't even know what the word is. I'll follow what's going on in the NCAA tournament to a point. I remember in high school, we would skip school because we would bet on the NCAA tournament games. Like, what we did was, it was kind of stupid looking back on it, but we all pitched in like, I don't know, $50, something like that, built a pool, and then we drew teams. I don't remember what pool of teams. Surely we didn't draw from like the whole 64 field tournament. Anyway, my senior year, I ended up getting UMass when Marcus Camby was there. That's how freaking old I am. But we would go home and like we would skip school, and that's all we did for those few days, like the opening few days of the tournament. We just watched basketball. And the only reason that was exciting for me is because I wasn't in school, and I think there's like the money component to it. I think if you're gambling on sports, if you're a gambler, you know what I'm talking about. It just makes it a little more exciting, I guess. Makes you care a little more than you would normally care. So, yeah, this time of year is tough for me, man. Football's over. I'm not a big NFL guy either. I'm mainly a college football guy. I'll be totally honest with you guys. College football is like the pinnacle for me. I really, really enjoy college baseball. So I'm excited that we're a few weeks out from college. But matter of fact, I believe we're like a couple weekends away, 1 weekend away, something like. We're a couple weekends away from college baseball. Opening pitch, opening weekend. So I'm excited about that. But right now it sucks. So anyway, I guess that's my monologue for the opener of this here podcast. It's Friday. I love me some Fridays. Y'all know that. We got a little bit of Hardwood Horns to talk about. Tiny bit of Texas baseball. Check out the last show. We did a preview of Texas baseball. How that team's going to look coming up this season in 2024. Their last season in the Big 12 before they head off to the SEC. And again, everybody loves and talks about the SEC football dominance, which is a thing. But, man, the baseball in the SEC is just – I think the baseball in the SEC is more dominant than the football in the SEC. So, I'm really excited about the college baseball that's going to go on in the SEC. We'll have a little bit of Texas football updates. There's not a whole lot going on. And then we'll talk about the NCAA and are they dead? Is the NCAA dead? Is it on its way out? Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. You can listen to the podcast at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or damn near any place that you can listen to a podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We are on iHeart. And if you don't know how to find any of those things, horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. You can subscribe right there from that webpage. Let's talk about these Hardwood Horns, man. This is such a frustrating team to watch. It is crazy. 3-5 in conference. Their overall record is really good. They start conference playoff just terribly, losing one of their first four, winning one of their first four. And then all of a sudden, damn, everybody's pissed off. Everybody wants Rodney Terry out, this, that, and the other. And then they turn around and beat Baylor and Oklahoma in back-to-back games. Both ranked teams. I think Baylor was the 9th ranked team. Oklahoma 11 or 12th at the time. And they didn't just beat Oklahoma. They went into Norman, and I think they beat them by like 15 or 16 points. Just absolute ass-kicking, and it was never really close. I think Texas jumped out to kind of a little lead, and then Oklahoma, sometime there late in the first half, kind of got even, got a lot closer anyway. And then ultimately Texas just pounded them. So everybody starts like, well, man, maybe here we go, you know. Then they go out to Provo and just get run out of the building by the BYU Cougars. I'm talking like Mac Brown style back in the 2000s, late 2000s, early or 2000 teens, whatever the fuck you call that. When they went back-to-back games with BYU and just fucking just got smashed. That's what that game looked like to me. That's what that game reminded me of. And then they come home and lose a really, really close one to the University of Houston Cougars, who a lot of people consider the best team in college basketball. I don't know. They were ranked 4th. Texas had a really good shot to win that game. Just couldn't quite get it done. So it's just like a up and down, like roller coaster ride with this basketball team. I don't know. I mean, it seems like they go in chunks, right? So they lost they lost a bunch. They lost 3 or 4. Then they won 2 against some really good teams. Then they absolutely bombed against the next 2 teams. They got 2 games coming up. I don't know, man. I feel like they probably need 6 wins out of the next 10 to make the tournament. I think 20 is kind of the magic number. I could be wrong on that. They're 14-7 right now. But here's the teams they got to play. They got TCU and Iowa State, West Virginia, Houston, K-State, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Oklahoma. That's their next 10 games. Or 11 games. Maybe it's 6 of the next 11. It's hard to see 6 wins there. Honestly. Thing with this team, like I said, they're so up and down. I don't know if anybody, like, so earlier in the season, and I didn't get the chance to watch them that much, but they were undefeated. They were beating a bunch of bad teams, and the only 2 good teams they played, and I don't even remember who those teams were at this point. The 2 really good teams they played, they got blown smooth out in one of those games, Marquette. And then they got kind of blown out in the other one as well. But I kept thinking to myself, you know, they've got some injuries. Dylan Dessou isn't playing. It's a whole new group of guys, man. Just almost a completely different looking team than they were last season, personnel-wise. So I'm thinking, man, you know, they'll come around. Like, they just got to gel a little bit. They got to get Dessou back, you know, get back in a rhythm together. Figure some shit out, right? Like, that happens a lot in team sports. Like, you can't just go grab 5 really good players and throw them out on a basketball court and expect them to be great right off the bat in any league, maybe high school. So I was thinking, man, they'll be all right. And then they have a game against LSU, who LSU I don't think is a great team. They're a really high-scoring team. At least they were at the time. And Texas outscored them. And that just kind of solidified, you know, my thoughts that, yeah, they're going to come around. And then conference play happened. And, man, I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to come around. But then they have these games where they play really well. They're just so inconsistent. The defense is fucking awful. I think they're averaging, I mean, they're giving up like mid-70s points a game in Big 12 play. That, <sighs> That's not very good, man. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to, the more entertaining thing for me with this basketball team is watching everybody on Twitter. I think that's going to be, for me, the only joy I get out of this basketball season is watching Texas fans piss and moan back and forth at each other about this Texas basketball team. After it was 1-3, like I said earlier, you had droves and droves of Texas fans like really upset, really vocal about Rodney Terry not being the guy. Vocal that, Del Conte made some people said bad hire. I personally do not think it was a bad hire. I think the hire was made in haste. I don't think they did any kind of coaching search. They just said, hey, man, he went to the Elite Eight. He deserves a contract. Let's make him the head coach. And again, I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just think you got to do a coaching search. And then you had the guys that were like, we never should have fired Chris Beard, and that's a whole different conversation. I'm torn on that one myself. So anyway, Big 12 play starts off just terribly. And there's a few guys out there like smacking their gums about, oh, y'all got to give him a chance. He's only been the coach for 5 seconds. Yada, yada, yada. Which, again, I don't necessarily disagree with. And then they go 2-0 against Baylor and Oklahoma, and it's where are all the people that wanted Rodney Terry to be fired? Where y'all at? I need y'all to stand on the carpet. I need roll call on all these people that were upset about Rodney Terry being the head coach at Texas. Where y'all at? And by the way, a lot of the Rodney Terry sort of angst amongst the Texas faithful was about this whole horns down shit. I guess it was Cincinnati, where he kind of lost his fucking mind on the court about horns down, and then there was the after game interview and all that shit, post game interview. It's just a bad look, and Texas fans, he really didn't endear himself to most of the fan base, I don't think, with that. So that is all happening while it's 1-3. Then they go 2-0, and everybody, oh, where y'all at? Where are all the Rodney Terry haters? Then they drop 0-2 and just look completely uncompetitive against BYU. I mean, BYU must have had like 60 points in the paint. I've never actually gone back and looked. All I know is they ran right by Texas whenever they wanted to. They threw it underneath the basket. The guy turned around and put it in the basket anytime they wanted to. It was the most ridiculous fucking thing I have ever seen. I mean, I think BYU's a good team. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But there was zero defense played by Texas in that BYU game. I think they gave up 86 points in that game. And again, I guarantee you, at least 50 of them, at least, excuse me, at least 50 of those points were in the paint. And then they come home and they let one get away from them. I thought they really played well against Houston. I don't know. People say Houston might be the best team. I don't know. I think they're a good team. So we'll see what happens this weekend. They go on the road against number 25 TCU, which I think TCU has a win against Kansas. And then they get number 11 Iowa State at home on Tuesday, and I think Iowa State has a win against Kansas. I think. I could be wrong. I think if you're Texas, you got to steal one of those two. I mean, because like we said, I could be off, but I think it's like 20 wins. I think that's kind of like the magic sort of bubble cutoff thing. And I don't even know if that always gets you in. If they get to 20 wins, they're going to get in, I think, because they're going to have to have beaten some really good ranked basketball teams to do that. So I don't know, man. I a few weeks ago, I said there is no way, unless something changes, this Texas team makes the tournament. And then they had this little run against Baylor and OU, and I thought, well, maybe something's changing, right? Like, it's no secret. You play good basketball, you win basketball games. You play bad basketball, probably not winning basketball games. So I'm not sure I was wrong in the first place when I said what I said. I don't know. We'll just have to see. It's either going to be exciting or just, again, very frustrating. And this is the type of team that could. This is the type of team I feel like that could get our hopes up. You know, do just enough to where we're really close, like we're right there on the bubble, and then they fuck it up. Like, I could totally see this team doing that. Texas baseball, we did a rundown last week. We talked about who was on the way out, who all was coming back, some of the transfer guys that came in, which there weren't a lot this season. How they may play a role, how they could impact the season for Texas. One of those guys, first baseman Luke Storm from Duke, he just decides he's quitting baseball, like, earlier this week. It's a kid that hit 31 doubles, 23 home runs in 2 seasons at Duke. Big kid. Like, I think he's 6'5", 6'6", and big, like probably 240 pounds. So a big, physically imposing type guy. Obviously swings a heavy stick at the plate. I think he was going to be the first baseman. And now it's interesting because I can't think of his name. The guy that played first base, Jared Thomas, played a lot of first base last season. But I think they were going to put him out in the outfield to get some experience and keep his bat in the lineup out in the outfield. I feel like with Storm being out, Jared Thomas is going back to first. And then I think you got an outfield. It's very talented, but wildly inexperienced. And I don't know. You never know how hitters are going to react coming from high school to college. So I don't know if they're going to be able to find a bat that could equal what Storm could do out of that group. Maybe they can. I mean, we're going to find out real quick. And that's just me thinking. I don't know if that's what David Pierce had in mind with those two guys. Anyway, the alumni game is on Saturday. That's tomorrow. No idea what time. I will not be watching. But ESPN released that 34 of 36 Texas home games will be on LHN. The other two are TCU series games. They'll be on ESPNU. So if you have Longhorn Network and you like baseball, there you go. If you don't have Longhorn Network, which I currently do not, I am going to have to foot the bill and figure out how to get that because I will not miss that many baseball games. And I really, really hope that, Longhorn Network is going away. It's going to get absorbed into the SEC network. I really hope I really hope I get to see Texas play baseball games. I know that I think they do a pretty good job on SEC network of showing most of the games, to be perfectly honest. So, there you go with Texas baseball. We're starting baseball this weekend. Our son is a senior. Final year of high school baseball, probably his final year of baseball altogether. Whether he could play at the next level or not, he just is not that interested in it. He loves to play baseball, but he's got a plan for after school, and baseball at college is not in it. So, and that's cool. So we're going to enjoy the shit out of getting to see him play one last time. Folks, parents, go and watch your kids play as much as you can for a bunch of different reasons. One of those reasons is you can't overestimate the impact of you being there to see your kids play. They love that shit. Every once in a while, I scroll through TikTok a lot, and I found a video one day that said, the caption was like, you know, if you think your kids don't notice, you know, they do. Watch this video. And it was nothing but clip after clip after clip after clip of kids at their plays, their choir recitals, their band recitals, their sporting event. And these are like small kids, right? Like 6, 7, 5-year-old, you know, younger kids, elementary school age kids. But it was just clip after clip of these kids on video realizing that their parents were in, you know, the crowd or in the stands or whatever. Your kids want nothing more than you to be there. So if you can be there, get your ass to games, man. Get your ass to your kids' functions. That is a huge deal to kids. So there's that. Secondly, it's going to fly by for you guys. Man, I remember, it seems like, I mean, I can remember very vivid things from my son playing T-ball, my son's first year in coach pitch, or not coach pitch, but machine pitch. And then obviously all the way up through to where we're at today. I mean, it's like, I can remember those things like they just happened. That's how quick it goes. And then it's just gone. Our daughter, who is a few years older than our son, 3 years older than our son, she was very, very good at track. She was a hurdler. And, man, when that ended, that was really hard for me. I was like, damn. You know, she made it to the area track meet her senior year. And, yeah, and then it was just over. And we're like, what in the, you know, this sucks. It sucked. Because you knew that was it. So we're right there at that point with our son. You know, in a few more months, that's going to be it. And we're never going to get to watch either of our kids participate in sports anymore. And that's been such a huge part of our lives. So get out there and see your kids play if you can. I realize everybody cannot. You know, people got jobs, people got things going on. I totally get it. But that shit matters. So if you can be there because you'll cherish those memories going forward as well. But anyway, we're about to start. We have scrimmages starting tomorrow and then over the next couple weeks. And then they have a bunch of tournaments they're going to play all over the damn state of Texas. That'll be cool. Kind of take us back to travel ball. So there's your Texas baseball update and a little bit of parental advice for you guys. Go watch your kids. Texas football updates, not a lot. Winter workouts are in full swing. Check out Horns 247 if you want to see what's going on in winter workouts. Not a lot. Chip Brown did some reporting. And this is nothing against Chip Brown. This is just the nature of these types of reportings, or, you know, reports. If you've ever been on a college football sort of recruiting type website, there's all these off-season reports, and they're usually exactly the same every single year, no matter how good or bad the team ends up. And I get it. I am not getting down on any of those guys that do that for a living. They're trying to find stuff to talk about, just like I'm trying to find stuff to talk about today. But it's like so-and-so is fast. So-and-so is lifting really hard. But go to Horn 247, check it out. Chip Brown article on the whole deal. But it won't be too long for in spring football. And then, man, we just got to get through baseball season. And then we're like a month and a half, 2 weeks, 2 months away from college football again. And I may not have a lot of college football seasons left, folks. I am 46 years old. I have not taken care of my body very well. I was in the military. I've been exposed to all kinds of shit. I've already had bouts with cancer in my colon and in my liver. Man, and these freaking seasons are just flying by. Slow down, seasons. Billy Glasscock, former director of player personnel for the University of Texas, sort of like a GM type role, I think. He's been at Texas since Steve Sarkisian got here. Steve Sarkisian hired him. He takes a similar role with Ole Miss, which I thought was interesting. His title is general manager, according to what I saw. Now, would have he stayed if Steve Sarkisian called him general manager? I don't know. I know nothing about sort of that side of the house. You just didn't used to have this shit in college. And now you got all these administrative type positions. And I don't even know what those guys really do. I mean, I think probably his role at Texas was to go find people for the coaches to go look at, make sure to turn over every stone and make sure that the coaches aren't missing out on any hidden gems, so to speak. And then I'm sure there was like some form of managerial type duties when they got to when they signed and were on camp. I just don't know. So I don't know what this new role entails, why he would leave Texas to go do that one. Maybe it was pay. Maybe it was title change. Maybe Billy Glasscock just has a really good relationship at Ole Miss. Maybe, I don't know. So he's out. So Sark will be looking for that guy, a new guy to fill that void. I think, he's very highly regarded, Billy Glasscock. He's again, I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I've heard. This is a loss, right? We said we talk about, Texas headed into the SEC in 2024. Is Texas ready for SEC football in 2024? They're coming off a 12-2 season and a playoff appearance. And I think what's super important about that for Steve Sarkisian, if you listen to this show late last summer, hell, probably even right after the football season in 2022, you probably heard me say 50 fucking times, he's recruited well. He's maintained his staff. He's kept these guys in these positions. There's been continuity. He's got to go out on the field and fucking win something in 2023. Has to. Or he will start to lose some of that recruiting momentum, some of that capital that he has with all these recruits around the country. And that's exactly what he did. He has his first 10-win season as a coach. They win their last Big 12 championship, big opportunity to win a Big 12 championship. They beat every single Big 12 team on the Fuck You Tour. And someone's going to say, oh, they didn't beat OU. Well, OU's fucking leaving the Big 12, so they weren't part of the Big 12 Fuck You Tour. They go and have their first playoff appearance, and it didn't turn out the way we all wanted, but it was competitive. There was a chance to win that game late. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity in that game. I mean, I think Washington was a good team. I think Texas was a really good team, too. I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. But the point is, he kept that momentum. So He's been able to recruit really, really well in this 2024 class. He's been able to go out and get some really good key guys out of the transfer portal that can help this team next season. As I look at this Texas team, I only really have 3 concerns heading into the 2024 season, and all 3 of them are on defense. I think the interior D-line is a concern, and I don't mean that because I don't think a lot of those guys aren't capable that are still here. But Texas has lost 2 seasons in a row, both their interior starters to the NFL draft. Or they will after this NFL draft. And I mean, is it? And I think the first pair, Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojimo, they were good. They were infinitely better than the season before, when anybody could run the ball all over Texas. And then those 2 guys leave, and everybody's like, man, I wonder, what's going on? Is Texas going to be able to stop him? And then Devondre Sweat, man, he's like a number 1 draft pick type guy. And now you got Byron Murphy, who has been really good all season as well. I mean, outstanding. Those guys were the 2 highest rated defensive tackles in the country, according to whatever PFF or whatever that shit is that rates the players. But now Byron Murphy is a guy that's in a lot of mock drafts projected above Devondre Sweat. And I get it. A lot of people go, how's that possible? Devondre Sweat was the whatever the hell. He was first team consensus All-American, which he absolutely was, and he earned every single bit of that. The thing about Byron Murphy is he is a fucking big dude, which, by the way, and I know I say this a lot. I say which, by the way, a lot. I get sidetracked in my mind, but Devondre Sweat makes Byron Murphy look like a fucking midget. And Byron Murphy is like 6'1.5", 6'2", 315 pounds. But the thing about him is he is solid. I mean, he does not look like a defensive lineman. So he's very versatile. Whereas Devondre Sweat to me is nose guard all the way. I'm not saying he couldn't play out at a 2 or 3 or something like that. But his body, his skill set, what he's good at, jamming up the middle and pushing people back into the quarterback, that is nose tackle written all over it. I mean, it just depends on where he goes, but that's what he's going to do in the NFL. I think a guy like Byron Murphy, I think, you could line him up at the nose if you wanted. He could definitely play those 2 and 3 techniques, and I think you could kick him out to some edge positions, and he could still have very good production there. Not all the time. I just think he's a more versatile guy. Then we lose Bo Davis, the defensive line coach, heads over to LSU. So it will be interesting to see if the talent's there. There's a lot of young talent in that interior defensive line group. How quickly does the new coach come in? How good is he at developing talent? And then the other thing is, like, if you're one of those younger guys, you've watched guys that just have played at Texas, like the 2 guys before them, the 2 guys this year. It'd be easy to go, yeah, if I start at defensive tackle at the University of Texas, I'm going to be a high draft pick. I'm going to get drafted in the NFL draft. Are those guys going to put in the work to be high draft picks? So that's concern number 1. Concern number 2 is the secondary. I think that was probably the weakness of this team all season long. And I mean, it was kind of a mixed bag, right? We saw them have really good games. And then we saw him have just some really terrible games, and we saw him miss some coverages, and we saw some guys that it looked like just weren't physically able to do what they needed to do to help that secondary be very, very good. Again, lots of young talent they've brought in. You lose a guy like Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts was not a big numbers guy, but I think he was a very important piece of that defensive backfield. You saw it while he was out hurt this year. They just weren't as good, and that's nothing against guys like Manny Muhammad, true freshmen that had some very, very outstanding moments, very big plays this year. Nothing against those types of guys. Nothing against the guys that are there. But Ryan Watts made some sort of difference on this defense. That he's gone. A lot of the guys that contributed this year out, especially on the back end. You get Jahdae Barron back. You get Brooks back. You get Makuba, or however you spell his name, Ukaba, whatever the transfer from Clemson. I think he was an all ACC type guy. You get a late flip from Xavier Filsaime, 5-star out of McKinney, safety. They've got a lot of young talent there, but can it get developed? Can it get on the field? Can it get on the same page? Playing defensive back in college football, or really at any level of these days, that is a rough spot. I don't know why anybody wants to play those positions. They pay well. If you're good at it, they pay well. But it's not easy. So can the secondary, can they at least be as good as they were this year? And is there potential for them to take a step higher? They're going to have to do that eventually to be really successful in the SEC. And then I think concern number 3 to me is edge pressure. That is something that we just have not had under Steve Sarkisian. And honestly, Texas hasn't had. I know they've had guys go to they had Jackson Jeffcoat. They had Charles Omenihu. What was the other guy? The last one. Oh, can't think of his name. He's in the NFL right now. They've had a few guys get drafted, go into the NFL, and do okay, right? Like, I mean, these guys aren't bad, but it's been forever since Texas had dominance coming off the edge. And really, you got to go back to that run from, 2004 to 2009, 2010. That's when they had some dudes. They haven't had that in a long time. And it's a problem. It's gotten better, but it's not where it needs to be, in my opinion, headed into the SEC. Now, again, lots of young talent there. You got DJ Burke, who flashed hard early this season, and then he started getting banged up. Never was really the same. Obviously, you got Colin Simmons coming in, 5-star out of Duncanville. He's a guy that can get off the corner. You got Colton Vosick, who's a guy that was banged up all season. Never made it on the field, but he's a big, physical guy. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be a totally unfair comparison, but who are the brothers? The brothers from Ohio State. One of them's with the Chargers. One of them's with San Francisco, the defensive ends. He's that type of body type. Could work himself into that type. The Bosa brothers. That's what I'm thinking. He could work himself into that type of body. And obviously, if you can do that and learn to use your hands, you're going to be tough to defend. So again, lots of talent across all these areas, but those are my concerns. Now, do I think they're ready? Absolutely, I think they're ready. The roster's in great shape. They beat the SEC champs on the road last season. it's kind of interesting. Chris Phillips, a guy from SEC Unfiltered, used to be the Spurs Up show. He's a Gamecock guy. He's had me on his show at least once, maybe twice. I can't remember. He's down on Texas. He says Texas is not back. And they'll be lucky to win 8 games next season, he says. Listen, I don't think Texas is going to go in there and like run the damn show in the SEC. I don't think anybody's going to do that anymore. I think the days of someone just running the table in the SEC are gone, folks. I think. I think there's going to be a lot of one-loss teams in the SEC going forward. Maybe 2-loss teams. There's just too much talent in that conference now. Just too many good teams. But I don't think 8 games is very realistic. I don't know. We'll see if Chris Phillips is correct or if I'm correct. But I think Texas is ready for the SEC. I think Steve Sarkisian understands what it takes to win. They've recruited incredibly well along the offensive and defensive lines. And as we all know, that is where you win football games. That is why the SEC has dominated college football for so long, is because they're so good in the trenches. Is the NCAA dead? There's been a whole lot of talk about this lately, especially this season. This season seems like, so every offseason's kind of been crazy and wild with NIL and the transfer portal. This offseason has just been off the fucking chain with transfer portal, NIL shit. You've got guys that are you got like star players at school A, and these ain't like small schools. They're not the biggest and best Division I schools, but we're not talking about small schools. You got guys that are showing out at those places. There's no chance anybody's coming in there and taking their position, and they're like bolting into the transfer portal to go get more money. There's all sorts of just, it's the fucking Wild West is what it is. It's like the NCAA said, oh, pay for play is going to be a thing. You can do it now. We're washing our hands of it. We're stepping back. You guys enjoy. That's what it was like. I mean, they like threw a firecracker in a fucking anthill on that deal. The NCAA's been functionally dead now for a couple decades. We all know that. It's been sitting back, not doing a damn thing, except every once in a while they'll investigate somebody and then they'll fuck some kid over for like getting a suit or something or signing an autograph. Is it? So yeah, it's dead. The NCAA is dead. The only question really has always been, like, does something else replace it? Like, how and what does that look like? And interestingly enough, and I did not know this when I decided to talk about this today, the Big and the SEC just announced today that they are putting together a joint advisory group of university presidents and ADs with the goal being, and I quote, urgent mission to find solutions for issues such as ongoing antitrust lawsuits, most notably the multi-billion-dollar House case, disagreements over the NCAA's new governance proposal, Project D1, and the unsettled landscape of athlete transfer movement, tampering charges, and name, image, and likeness inducements. So they're not fucking around. This group, the Big Ten and the SEC, again, great leadership. Sankey, this guy, this commissioner for the SEC, has always been a good leader, and he's doing it again. He led conference realignment this time around. He was at the forefront of the expanding the playoff, and now he's about to fix college football, and I am here for it because I've been talking all season about how this is a fucking mess, and it is ruining the game of college football. I just spoke about Chris Phillips earlier, and we disagree on this whole Texas going to the SEC thing, but one thing I 100% agree with him, and this is kind of funny, I saw a TikTok of his earlier today, and he made just the most, I mean, it's the simplest, but yet the most profound statement about sort of where we're at with college football right now. The business of college football has never been better, but the game of college football is on the decline. Something along those lines. Totally paraphrased it, but that is a good way to sum it up. 100%. But for fans, and again, you're going to have different levels of fans. I'm talking about like diehard, true to your school, pom-pom waving fans of college football. College football is about to get just completely ruined. So I'm all for this group. Will they do any better? Hell if I know. But someone needs to try, because the NCAA is just standing back there just collecting checks, being completely just fucking useless. Really, it's so odd to me that it's even a thing. They are just that useless. I think, the other thing I think that's kind of a byproduct of all this is I think we're going to start to see, unless it gets fixed, you're going to start to see a lot of good, talented coaches at the collegiate level, both for the NFL, because it's never been harder to be a college football coach than it is today. Before you even fucking have a season, you got to spend hours and hours and hours coddling and recruiting these fucking kids. I mean, some of these guys will tell, I picked this school because they were the first to offer me. They showed me the most love. And if you don't offer them and start showing them love when they're like fucking 13 years old, they're already scratching you off the list. Can you imagine? And realistically, this is 100% realistic. These college coaches are having to recruit 3 classes worth of kids at any given time. Sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And they're having to show all these kids all this love just to not get arbitrarily like marked off the list. I mean, like, the sense of entitlement that these fucking kids have is staggering. So you got to recruit them. Then when you get them signed, you got to figure out this NIL shit with them. You got to put up with all the crap that goes along with that. Then every fucking year, twice a year, the transfer portal opens up. And you got to re-recruit these fucking kids that you've already recruited, already got NIL deals for. There's tampering happening just completely out the ass. It's like out in the open. Everybody knows it's happening. It's like fucking, and then we just talked about it, this free agency side of it now where, man, I'm the big dog running back. I've been here 3 years. Pay me a little bit more. Oh, you don't want to pay me? Okay, well, I'll go into the transfer portal. Like, what in the fuck? And then, that's just the kids. Then you got to deal with all the fucking boosters. All these big money donor guys that think because they give millions of dollars, they should have all this say into what happens with the football program. And then the actual coaching part starts. And that's where you have to game plan for hours and hours a day and practice for hours and hours a day to go play a 3.5 hour game on Saturday. I honestly, like, when I was younger, I thought being a Division I college football coach would be one of the coolest things ever. I no longer think that, because, and everybody bitches about the salaries these guys make. Man, those dudes, I don't even know when they sleep. Interestingly enough, this is something that Nick Saban, this whole, big and SEC thing, and, he's been open about, in interviews about this whole NIL and transfer portal and the way it works today. I wonder if Nick Saban will be part of this new working group, whatever you want to call it, advisory group. I would love to see Nick Saban sort of take that next role as an ambassador for college football as a whole and fix this shit so that college football just doesn't just completely get ruined and I don't even want to watch it anymore. But yeah, the NCAA is dead, and it's because they failed to adapt. It's a lot like the old Big 12. The Big 12 just kind of sat back, didn't want to do shit. And circumstances saved it this time around. I don't know that it'll always be that way. You know, the NCAA went from one extreme to the other. You know, like, I'm a cartel, I make all the money, fuck you kids, y'all don't get nothing, to just, all right, y'all pissed and moaned about this for 20 years, go figure it out. So yeah, the NCAA is dead. I just don't know what'll be next. I hope it saves the game. I understand there's business to this, but let's also save the fucking game so there can be a business side to all this. Next week, we will talk about something. Probably some more basketball shit. We'll be coming up on baseball, so we might talk about that. Who knows what else happens in the world of college sports, college football in particular. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Will not cost you guys a thing. I would sure appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com. Please fucking email me some questions or some shit y'all want me to talk about. I'll do it. Anyhow, horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys have a good weekend. Get hooked.